Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Obstacle Racing Media Podcast. I am your host, Mappy Davis, and this is the super rare YouTube and podcast twofer. So I'm recording right now. For those of you listening in the normal fashion, cool. But also for those of you watching, here I am. So there you go. Don't know why I needed to say it that way, but that's what I said. So here we go. If you're new to the show, welcome. If you're old to the show, you might have heard last week or 2 weeks ago when I last recorded that we are retiring the Obstacle Racing Media Podcast. Now, don't get too sad. I'm still not going anywhere. This YouTube channel, for those of you watching right here, right now, not going anywhere. And Obstacle Racing Media as a company, as a whole, is not going anywhere. We've got a website with articles. We've got social media with updates. So, for example, when I'm at World's Toughest Mudder, you're going to be seeing updates live right there on Obstacle Racing Media, the Instagram channel. That's where we do most of our stuff these days. For those that haven't heard, I am, in fact, retiring this podcast. And wouldn't you know, just this week, my friend Mark Maron retired his podcast. And these are things are not connected at all. Other than I've been on his show and he's been on this show, so go check those out if you haven't. I'm not trying to name drop here. I'm just trying to point out that it was kind of cool that I saw his announcement and he said, it's okay for things to end. And for some reason, that just made me feel okay in a way that I hadn't yet. It is okay for things to end. And we're ending this podcast after World's Toughest. So you will get amazing episodes during and after. So after from during that, I interview people during the night and then, of course, the brunch the next day. But he did his for 16 years. I've been doing this for 13. So I started it in July of 2012, and that November of 2012, I went up to New Jersey on a hope and a prayer, and thought I'd try to get some content from World's Toughest Mudder, and it became my favorite event. And I've talked about that a lot of times, and we're going to do some fun memory lane stuff when we do the final episode. Drinking some tea. Don't always want to drink coffee. Mix it up once in a while. Drink a tea. But I like to put things in perspective. So I looked up what was going on in 2012, just for the fuck of it. Do you know what the top 10 songs in Billboard were in 2025? Sorry, in November of 2012, Raceway Park. Raise your hand if you were there. Raise your hand, Jason Russo. Sorry, Jason Rulo. Raise your hand, whoever else was still there. Number one song, One More Night by Maroon 5. Now, I didn't know what the fuck that was. I was like, One More Night? I know Phil Collins' One More Night. One more night. One more night. He says it about 100 times. But number two is Gangnam Style. And we all know that from 2012, and I'm not going to sing that for you. But it turns out that I went to YouTube, and it's, but I don't want to say you a million times that I don't want to say you one more night. Is there a hole in this pants? I just got these pants. At number 3, Some Nights by Fun. Number 4, Diamonds by Rihanna. By number 5, Blow Me, One Last Kiss by Pink. That's as far as I'm going to go. Yeah, that's it. Top 5 from 2012. You know what the number 1 movie was in 2012? November 17th and 18th, 2012. Twilight, Breaking Dawn Part 2. So a long fucking time ago. That's my point, that we've been doing this. So I said all that to say, welcome to the show. And this is your World's Toughest Mudder preview. And as you're going to hear us refer, I will, in fact, include links to 2 years ago, prior to World's Toughest Mudder, Jason Rulo and I did an episode on every single topic. We covered gear. We covered nutrition. We covered pit crew. We did some in-depth stuff. And rather than redo that every year, last year we just did kind of a, hey, here's what's going on. This year, with the help of Will Chung, we're doing the UK version. Now, Will and or Jason will come back I'm pretty sure, when we get more announced. But we're going over a lot of stuff. Now, because it's me, and as you just learned from the hole in my pants, I go all over the place. Sorry, allergy. You're going to have to stay tuned for the whole thing. That wasn't by design, but I didn't do an outline because I usually don't. And so we go all over the place. We talk about where you can buy stuff when you get there. We talk about how close you can stay. We talk about what to wear. We talk about staying warm. We talk about all the things that you want to hear for your first time World's Toughest Mudder, and if you need a refresher. But to give you context, I've been to every single race since 2012 as a participant or media or both. Jason's been to every single Tough Mudder, World's Toughest Mudder since 2012 as a participant. Will's been to 4 or 5 of them. He's done several toughest. He's been to every Tough Mudder venue in England. So, fun chat. We just did it today, and I'm bringing you right now, and we will have probably more as we get closer to the event, which is coming up pretty darn quick. Let's get to myself and Jason and Will. Away we go.
If you record at a normal time, I'd be in my own office, but I'm at work at the moment. But here we go. We're in. You can hear me. That's the main thing, right?
It's fine. Looks great. It's just it's a pet peeve of mine. So, listen, we're here to talk World's Toughest. I can't believe we're here again because it's 6 months sooner than it usually is, and so we always feel this way. Here it comes again, but now for the first time ever, in the summer, less than 6 months since the last one, we really are here again.
Yeah, it's way too early as far as I'm concerned. I'm not really ready yet mentally. I haven't really wrapped my head around the whole idea of trying to race 24 hours in June, but hey, we're just going to show up and do it, right?
You know what's really interesting, though, Matt and Jason, that I'm not running this time, but it does feel the right time. I think because we're in the UK, because it's now summer and it's now warm for a change, the weather has been absolutely amazing the past few weeks, that actually I think a lot of people are ready. Yes, it's not November, but I think it is the right time to have it here in the UK. It's actually summer, and we don't say that very often in the UK at all.
You just jinxed us. You know that, right?
Oh,
you said the weather's been fantastic. Terrible. We're done. This is going to be Atmore all over again.
Oh.
I mean, if this actually does continue, which we assume it will, and they do it again in a year, it will most likely feel like it. It's been ingrained. Kind of like you expect the leaves to turn in the fall. You know what I mean? Like when it's November, that's World's Toughest time. You know what I mean? And so, just like you expect, fireworks on the 4th of July. My whole body is in tune to this one time of year and this one event. I've been getting invited to other things towards the end of the year, and the first thing I say is, well, I'm not going to Worlds this time of year, so that week is probably free.
That's exactly right. I'm actually racing a 100-miler in like October because I don't have Worlds I have to prepare for. But that actually brings up the point. I was going to ask it later because I didn't want to start off that way. Do we think this is the last one? Everybody's wondering. I saw a post on Facebook yesterday. I'm like, what? We haven't even done the race yet. Let's figure out what happens after we do the race. But, I don't know why they're thinking that. But
I certainly don't think so. I don't think if Spartan we're going to close Tough Mudder altogether, like that's a theory, I guess. But that's not going to happen because there's already races on sale for next year, and Tough Mudder does quite well in England. So people always act like they have the inside scoop, and me and Will actually do the inside scoop. So that's my answer. What do you say, Will?
I don't think it's going to be the last one. As you just said, Matt, we kind of have the inside scoop, so there may not be a surprise for next year. I really hope it comes back because I really don't want to miss out on the very last World's Toughest Mudder. So I'm really hoping it's going to be back for 2026. But no, it's not going to be the last one.
Are you not going at all, or are you just not running?
I'm not running, so I'll be helping Matt and I'll be helping UK OCR. So I'll be there for the weekend and take it all in. But no, I'm not running because I'm sure we'll talk about the weather many, many times, but I really don't fancy the weather.
He just got done saying the weather's as good as it's ever been, and now he's saying he's not running because of the weather. Uh,
I was at Atmore. I was also at Atlanta, so I know how cold it will be. I think, and I'm sure. Well, let's start talking about it now. I think through the day and through the early evening, the weather's going to be perfect and it's going to be nice and warm. But I think the temperature differential between day and night is probably what's going to hit a lot of the foreign people, so the Americans and everybody else, because the UK temperature through the day and night, there's a massive differential. Where Florida last year, it changed 5 degrees at the most, where I think
last year's a terrible example.
last year was wonderful, but it's probably in a normal summer, it's going to be around 20 degrees. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, sorry guys, but it'll probably drop to about 5 degrees, so it's going to be quite a big differential between day and night, and I think that's something I guess everyone's got to prepare for.
Well, I'll just read off what the typical highs, just given by the internet, the interwebs, the typical highs Fahrenheit-wise, because you weren't sure. Typical high.
Let's give it for both, since we have.
Yeah, I've got both of them. I'll just translate it. So It says 63 to 73, so approximately 68 Fahrenheit, which would be approximately 20 Celsius. I'm not sure if that sounds right for the high, but the low would be in the mid 50s Fahrenheit, which would be around 12 Celsius. That's the typical, and that's what Grok said that the probable temperatures would be in there. So if that's the case, that is what TMHQ has always wanted for their temperature ranges. Now we get big variances, but as you alluded to, Will, the biggest thing thermal regulation wise for the human body is the variance from warm during the day to cold at night. And in Las Vegas, we had that. We had very warm during the day. It'd be like 70 degrees, and then it would drop to like 45 or 50 at night. Now, we didn't get that every year, but those type of variances are what really kills people, especially if they mistime that wetsuit change. If they mistime that, and I don't know how fast, you could tell us how fast the temperature drops there, if it's a traditional drop, because in Vegas, it will, like that, drop off as soon as the sun's gone. So what's a typical thing up there in Central England?
So it sounds like the temperature variance is similar to Vegas, and that's a typical day, but the weather will drop slowly, so it won't just drop just like that. It'll probably drop over the space of 2 or 3 hours. So there is that window to get into that wetsuit. As you say, you've got to get into that wetsuit to keep warm earlier than you expect, but I don't think it's going to be too late like it sounds like it could have been in Vegas.
Okay.
So the actual numbers: 5 Celsius is 41 Fahrenheit, 20 Celsius is 68 Fahrenheit. So you're saying that's our range? 5.
Possibly I'm being a little bit too pessimistic on that down, but I think. Jason, I think you said 12. I would suggest a little bit less than that in the night. 5 may be a bit too pessimistic, but I think it's more about the variance of the difference rather than kind of the top and the bottom.
Well, again, the Vegas years, there's no cover. The sun goes down. It's cold. Period. You get out of the water, you're cold, right? And then it got a little bit colder in those later hours.
Yeah,
as I recall. In Georgia, I can't even remember. I know we got below freezing, but what was the?
We started the race in jackets because the wind was blowing and it was like 55 degrees that first year in Atlanta.
Okay, and then when did it hit sub freezing?
I don't think it hit sub freezing till the middle of the night because we got frost. Maybe it was midnight or something like that. I don't know if it actually ever hit sub freezing, but it got really close. But the frost came because of the temperature in the air. But it was definitely cold the first year. The second year I think was a little better. I mean, I know it was a little better. Wasn't near that bad. And I don't think, because this is summertime, even in the worst days you guys have there in Central England, I don't think we're getting anywhere close to freezing. I could be wrong.
No, but 40 is fucking cold.
Well,
40 is cold when you're wet and moving.
here's the problem, though, and this goes across the board, except for maybe the people in the southern hemisphere. We are in summer now, and we have no reference of cold if you're in certain states. That cold is like here in Missouri, we've had a really cold year as far as the summer is concerned. It didn't even hit 80 until last week, but it's like 50 overnight, so that's relatively close. But during the day, we're getting 75, 80 degrees. It's not exactly the same. There's no way to train for that Central England type of weather. So it's a lot different trying to train for it in summer as you prep, trying to get in cold water and all that.
Sorry, I'm on this new platform here, so I'm trying to mess around. Guess this is how I like us. I like us like this. So you're saying, Will, you're not racing because you're afraid it's going to be too cold? Because I'm again, you've been to the cold World's Toughest. Why do you think the summer one in England is going to be worse than an American late fall, early winter?
I think I just don't want to embrace the suck, if I'm perfectly honest. I've done Atlanta, I've done Atmore, and then Florida last year. Honestly, I think I was just spoiled with how warm the weather was through the day and through the night. And I just could not pull myself together mentally to go through really nice day. And it would be a nice day. Even if it rains, I think it would still be relatively warm. But just the cold at night is going to be quite sucky. And I think what the difference is between the ones that I've done in America is there'll be a lot of mud, and I know Midlands very well, which is why I'm on. This is why I'm on the show, right? I know the course very well, and I just know how muddy the mud mile part can really be. And so it's not as if it's just cold, but the mud is going to stick to you, so you're just going to be colder. I just don't feel. I really don't feel it this year. I really am chickening out.
Well, listen, that's fine. Listen, being a chicken is okay. Every year I say I'm going to do a lap in the morning and a lap at night, and I never do a lap at night because I'm like, fuck, I don't feel like it's too cold. So, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. So, just real quick, the memories are flooding by. How last year, nice course, good temperature, lots of hot miles. Laughlin was similar though, right, Jason? I think I remember that Trevor never put on anything but like his bib and like didn't.
Yeah.
Batress never put on a wetsuit.
Laughlin was warm. I did have to put on a jacket in Laughlin because of the wind. Last year, I'm not going to make an excuse. I would have gotten 80 miles had it not been so freaking warm during the day. I didn't put anything on. I didn't change anything the whole time. And it was like doing a toughest. It was ridiculous. It was definitely not a world's toughest experience, and that's fine. And I don't mean to speak bad about the race. It's just a different kind of race, but it just wasn't my thought process of world's toughest. This one will be that way. So this one's a return to norm as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and I always say I love the unknown, and I love that we get people's dreams get crushed because I come in really cocky and I'm going to get 100 miles. I kind of like I say that, and at the same time, I don't want to freeze all night. I'm not even run. If I'm not running, I'm more cold by standing in the pits waiting for you guys to come back.
That is true.
It's interesting you say the rain though, because we've never gotten rain.
No, don't say that. Freaking terrible.
When we were in, was it this last time or was it in Atmore that it actually drizzled a little bit at the start? And I thought, we've never had a rainy start.
Yes, that is correct. It did rain a little bit at the start. It did rain in Tampa. However, it didn't rain on me. So it rained in the pit, but I could see it, but it never actually rained where I was. I think the course was just trying to taunt me with the cooling down of the rain and moving the water around. Because from what I understand, it rained in the pit. Not long, but it rained in the pit, and that's a typical Tampa thing because I used to live there. But it didn't rain where I was. So I was like, this is really weird, but this is normal for me. So, but yeah, the presentation of rain into the mix could definitely make things more of a suck, let's put it that way. Especially since, and no knock on you guys over there in England, there doesn't seem to be an option for I'm like, you can bring a tent, but you got to bring a lot of extra gear if you're going to bring a big tent, like a canopy tent. And they're not allowing us to rent them there. So a lot of us that are traveling over there don't really have an option for like a canopy tent. So you got to bring like a camping tent if you want to keep all your stuff dry.
All right. Well, listen, Will seems perplexed. So we did a kind of an immediate preview when we first heard the news, and we're going to cover probably a lot of the same stuff because it's been a very long time. And we have a lot of new listeners. These How to Get Ready for Worlds brings out everybody. Many of you come up to me during the race. I listen to your show, so this is for you. Welcome to it. Hope we don't scare you too much, but we kind of do want to scare you a little bit. So why did you just – typically in America, oftentimes people will order in advance to the local Walmart or whatever a cheap – quote-unquote pop-up tent, right? It costs $70, maybe less if you, right? Just I'm going to throw it up, place to put my shit. Jason, why are you saying we can't do that?
Well, so it might be easily possible if you like using Amazon. I haven't actually tried that yet. That's my plan to start doing here in the next couple of weeks. But like you just made the mention of, Walmart's easily and readily accessible. In Grantham, I'm flying into London, taking a train to Grantham, and just from the looking around of stuff, I'm like, I'm not even sure I can find everything I need.
This is where Will is going to save the day. Will, where should we start between London and Grantham? I know you've mentioned a store called
Asda.
Asda, right? That's your place, right?
So Jason, just a quick question. So, are you taking the train up to Grantham, or do you have a hire car, so you can get around?
I'm taking a train to Grantham, and then I'm driving. I got a car in Grantham.
Okay, cool. So Asda is our version of Walmart. Walmart bought Asda, so there is that there. Grantham is a relatively small town, so it is difficult to get everything you want. But a couple of stores, we call them shops, but a couple of stores you can probably get things like the canopy tent and some cheap camping gear. Asda, Argos, Sports Direct. There's definitely one in Grantham. Maybe if you need just a very cheap waterproof jacket or kind of some camping chairs and things like that. The other place that I would suggest is a place called Decathlon, which is like your Dick's Sporting Goods type thing, and that's in Nottingham, so you're probably 45 minutes drive to get there, I think is the nearest Decathlon. But that is your Dick's Sporting Goods, so you can get pretty much everything there. So Argos and Asda, you can pre-order and then kind of click and collect. From there is probably where you can get most of the stuff. But I think because the Grantham Asda store is relatively small in comparison to what you'll see at Walmart, you are better off click and collecting rather than just going to the store and just seeing what's there.
Okay.
So why not, Jason? Why not get your car from the airport and then you can stop anywhere along the way?
Well, first of all, I'm not keen on driving in London. That's on the, as we would say, wrong side of the road. And just trying to navigate that. Plus, you got to pack all that stuff and put all that and try to travel. So I just figured it was easiest to take a train. It's an easy shot. I don't know exactly how long it would take to drive, but it's like an hour shot on the train and get everything. And if we have to drive to Nottingham, then we'll drive to Nottingham to get the stuff we need. This is the reason why I wanted to talk to Will to get the logistics of, okay, what are we going to have to do when we finally get up to Grantham in order to get all this stuff done.
No, the more I think about it, I think that does make more sense because I forgot that when I came earlier in the year to Macclesfield, it took me more than half the day.
You survived though, Matt. You survived driving on the wrong side of the road, didn't you?
Listen, it's not the wrong side of the road that's the problem. It's being on the wrong side of the car, on the wrong side of the road, and entering and exiting roundabouts that your instincts just don't work.
You just reminded me, Matt, the time when I drove with you and we were going wherever, Manchester or something. I was like, shit, stop, because you was going on the roundabout and someone almost kind of T-boned you because like, no, you don't have right of way. What are you doing? He's like,
once you get on the freeway, it's fine. You're just chilling on the wrong side of the road.
my
Yeah.
gosh.
So do what Jason says. Jason, we obviously can cover this later, but I am landing on the 25th. When are you getting in?
23rd,
26th.
Tuesday.
Wow.
I'll be there Tuesday morning.
Wow, you're really acclimated.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm going to be in London for 2 days, and we're going up to Grantham on Thursday.
Nice.
All right, so when you go on your shopping runs, can I go with you on your shopping runs?
Sure. So long as we can make logistics work.
Okay. How big of a car are you getting?
It's equal to a Nissan Rogue here. I can't remember what they call it there, but it's a small SUV.
I mean, I might I'm working with Tough Mudder, and so they might get me a car. I'm not exactly sure, but either way, I'll be up there. So we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So, and we could talk. We could talk more about that stuff later. Let's talk about this venue. Will knows all the venues. He's been to them all. Tell us about this venue in terms of if folks have been to the other Tough Mudder venues, and then just kind of in general.
So I think Beaver Castle, the venue is absolutely beautiful. It's on a hill. You have the castle there so for you guys, you go, oh wow, this is amazing. It's kind of a valley, so they will, whichever way you go, whether they reverse the course this time because they might be a bit sneaky, but they'll always put you up a hill at the beginning. There's a really large flat section where normally things like Funky Monkey is and Block Ness and things kind of in the middle, and then they'll put you up another hill to kind of finish. Ian K, friend of the show, talks about this as kind of being a Swiss Army knife of a course, because it can be anything that they want it to be. So this is why it's going to be really interesting that the courses, we know what the course layout is going to be, but they can be really sneaky and they can just change it up and go, wow, this is completely different. I did Europe's Toughest there, because this is where they used to have the original Europe's Toughest. So there have been times when they've almost
Won by John Albert.
Yes, the first year won by John Albert. But I think one of the years they almost doubled the elevation just by changing the course up a little bit and taking you up a few of the extra hills. But quite traily, some nice wooded areas. There's some natural water that they will definitely put you through. There's some kind of side hill running that they definitely put us up last year. And then towards the end, there is the mud mile part, and this is where the mud, and it's not just mud, it's kind of sticky, clayey, kind of that
Kinda
yellow,
like
sandy thing. Yes, and it will you just turn orange for the rest of the lap until you kind of get to the finish and try and pit and do whatever. Now again, they may reverse it and maybe they'll put you in mud mile first, and so you kind of be able to wash off. But it's got the natural water, it's got the elevation for days if they want to give you as much elevation as they wanted to. But it's really good running though. It's relatively flat, it's not rutted. It's been used by Tough Mudder, of course. There's lots of different running events. I've done a 24-hour running event there before. So it's well suited and well designed for kind of these type of running events. So once you get on the trails, you won't need to worry about your foot placement, but you do need to worry about the amount of mud or the amount of elevation that TMHQ may or may not put in.
Okay, so we are looking at Belvoir Castle, aka Beaver Castle. So where will we be starting? Let's say.
Can you zoom out move out quite a bit, and then I think you're heading south.
Because we're on the back side of that site, right?
So Belvoir Camping? Do you think
Nope.
this is where we'll be-
Keep now. Go to your west, southwest sort of area.
If you say left or right, it would sure help me
Okay.
out a lot.
Move to your left.
Jeez Louise. You west. Get out of here.
Okay, a bit more to your left. Okay, so and then move up. So this is, you see this orange road, that's your inroad. And see that crossroad, the T junction, yeah, exactly where your cursor is. That part just above it, that's normally where the event village is. And the bit just to your left of that T, that's where all the car parking is.
Okay.
I think, Will, I see.
So this part is kind of the furthest south of the course that you'll go. And so everything else is further north and to the left and to the right. So you can see where that lake, one part of that lake is there to your left.
So are we going in this lake?
Yes, if you go up a little bit more.
So they typically have, I was going to ask you that question. They typically have, we used to have swimming all the time.
Yeah.
And every of the last few years, they removed it. Obviously, there was no place in Fort Worth, but there's been places to swim, but they were worried about alligators and all this crap, so they kept us out of the water. What about England? You guys typically have swims?
Not swims, normally wades. That I think they took it out last year because of the blue-green algae, so kind of the way of getting sick. Can you go up a little bit more, Matt?
I want to get this.
You typically will cross that bridge, as you can see where it says Reverdeva, Nottinghamshire. You typically cross the bridge on the way back. So you go along the bridge and then back into camp in and around that area sometimes. But further, keep going up a little bit more, Matt. Okay, ooh, you've gone too far. So where you see Nottinghamshire, in and around that area, that's when they typically cross the lake, and it's quite a wade. So at the beginning, there's a lot of weeds, and you kind of can step across it and no problem. Later on, after the runs or through the course of a normal Tough Mudder, that becomes either a really boggy wade. So for me, I'm 5'6". So it would normally get up to chest or even my neck, so that's about 5 foot deep. So some people will choose to swim it, or you can kind of still kind of what's the word I'm looking for?
There
when
you are, Will. Sprinter van.
Well, where the hell are you going with that one? So that's generally the only time that they've put the water in, Jason. This may be the time that they might do a slide. It may go into the water. There has been a time a couple of years ago when you've done the mud mile and you're sticky and you're muddy and horrible, and they kind of put you out back into a loop for the water, either as a wade or a bit of a Statue of Liberty type obstacle, just to kind of wash you off. So yeah, it all depends, but that they call it swamp stomp, but it becomes a swim, and it's maybe 15-20 meters, and either you can kind of try and wade through it, or most people will try and swim it because it's that little bit quicker.
Yep.
We have been promised since last year that because the full kit Spartan and TM kits will be on site, that we'll be getting some new obstacles. Now,
Fantastic.
World's Toughest is typically at least, at the very minimum, a couple of obstacles mushed together, right? The net from this, the hill from that kind of thing. So we can probably imagine similar for just adding Spartan obstacles. So if they added, I don't know, what's the one everyone loves from top Ape Hanger, right? If they added an Ape Hanger, what do you guys call Ape Hanger, Will?
Ape Hanger.
Well, I mean, they did have the one with our cargo net over the top that everybody keeps failing. I can't remember what it. Dingleberries or something like that is what they call it. It did look like, I watched your video from last year, Will. Just the regular Tough Mudder there. It looked like there were Spartan obstacles, like the cargo net climb and a few other things. Is he typically, when they do them in England, they typically use Spartan obstacles in the Tough Mudder course?
Yeah. So what they've done now is almost a week before or after, they will do a Tough Mudder for one weekend, and then the Spartans the next weekend. So as Matt said, at Midlands it's going to be World's Toughest Mudder, then it's going to be the week after is Tough Mudder, and then the week after that is Spartan. So as Matt said, they are bringing everything to site, and so there will be some innovation in one form or another, but typically now almost everywhere there is a mix of Spartan obstacles. They may give them a funny name, but there's now a mix of obstacles, and I think some people, especially the Spartans, are kind of a little bit disappointed that Block Ness isn't there anymore. It becomes kind of the dunk wall or something else. Next week is Scotland, for example. But because it's a brand new venue and a brand new event for Tough Mudder and Spartan, it's Saturday is Tough Mudder, and then on the Sunday they turn it into a Spartan. So yeah, there's a lot of innovation between the different parts now.
I mean, I think that's fantastic. One of the problems that Tough Mudder is having, at least in my opinion, the last couple of years at Tough, I mean, in Texas, they did a good job of mixing stuff up, but last year was very vanilla Tough Mudder. I did the toughest in Atlanta. Matt, you were busy at High Rocks. Very vanilla Tough Mudder stuff. I mean, for people who don't do a lot of Tough Mudders, it's cool, it's fantastic. For people who do a lot of this, you're like, come on, man, just throw a Spartan obstacle. Give me a bucket carry, something that's a little bit different. So that's exciting to me to know that they've got Spartan obstacles as options, because even something as simple as the Helix or something they got that they do. Even Spartan rigs are now more tough than what Hanging Tough obstacle, because it's the same exact obstacle. They didn't even change the handhold. So I'm excited if they're going to bring in some Spartan stuff.
Well, let's look at this video that Will put up, this fantastic London West video in 75 seconds that he did. Oh, there we go. So, fun stretching. Amazing. Okay, that's a Spartan obstacle.
Lumberjack.
Like. That look. What's that? Obstacle?
Pole dancer. Yeah.
Pole dancer.
There we go. That's an obstacle. Freaking Tyrolean Traverse.
That's the old Spartan Traverse, right?
Yep.
Tyrolean.
Yep.
That's Crybaby. This is Funky Monkey.
Is this the one from just a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is that? What is the tubes in the water?
That was boa constrictor.
Oh, good old boa constrictor. Now that's a Spartan obstacle right there.
Yeah.
That you just did. The wall flip.
Yeah, the cargo net, vertical cargo net.
That is the lowest wall I've ever seen.
No, that's the old-fashioned Tough Mudder, Matt. That's the old one. That's the one we used to have. That's fantastic.
That low wall,
Yeah, that was back in the day. That's what we used to have. That's people got used to that raising up and then needing that rope that came down. I remember back in the day. That's all we used to be able to make that on our own, even in the middle of the night.
What would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 10? Will, London West.
London West. Oof. Out of all the UK courses, probably a 7 out of 10. Okay. It's nice. It's the start of the season. Very hilly. So I think on that one there was 400 meters of elevation. What's that? 1,200 foot of elevation over the 15K.
We're okay with meters for elevation.
400 meters of elevation. So quite a lot. Sun was shining. But I think it gets bonus points because it's the start of the season. You get to see kind of the Legionnaire community, and it's just great to see everyone after such a kind of time off, season off.
So I got a question for you. So I looked at your the site data from last year. I don't know if that was an Infinity or whatever was there that you guys did.
Yeah.
On your Strava, it looked like there was an average of about 400 to 450, so let's just say 425 feet of gain per mile. If we compare that, Atlanta the first year I think was 600 or so. Laughlin and Granbury were about 400, and Atmore and Bartow last year under 300 feet, like per lap or whatever you want to call it. I think I said per mile. I mean per lap. So when we're talking about that, Vegas was like 800. So when you see something like that, I mean, like, not to disparage any of the recent 100-mile runners, but all the guys, and Austin Azar would know, he was there, to run 100 miles in, or, even Trevor, to run 100 miles in Vegas when Adkins and Trevor and all these guys were doing it, that's a feat when it's 800 feet of gain per lap. When you're talking about all these people that ran it last year, plus the fact it wasn't cold and all this kind of stuff, there's a huge difference. And you're saying just from earlier that this could go from 400 feet to 800 feet a lap very easily. So, what would you say? Were we looking at 400? Were we looking at 600? Were we looking at 800?
So, shit, I've lost you.
Tune in next week to find out how many feet per lap we get at this year's World's Toughest Mudder.
I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
Here we go.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. We're not talking feet. I think it's 400 meters, so that's probably about 1,000 feet. It's definitely so much hillier than Atlanta, which I've been to. Laughlin had almost zero elevation, as I seem to remember, or it feels like almost
It
zero.
feels like-
And last year it seemed completely flat.
was.
So it's not going to be any of those. You are looking at, I would suggest, at least 600 feet of elevation on a typical Tough Mudder lap.
Okay.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
say I'm gonna speculate. Last year, I think it was things weren't going well. I feel like in Spartan and TM land, so I kind of feel like they were like, "Hey, man, we got to give everybody a fucking bunch of miles, an easy course. Like, let's just get them excited about this."
It felt like it.
Listen,
Yeah.
I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
We always talk about easier, harder. You and I, Jason, have talked about this many times. Cold, wet, hot, whatever. But let's say, for the sake of argument, they did that. They're like, let's fucking give them an easy course. Let's get everybody above. Everybody's going to hit their goals. They're going to love Tough Mudder again. This year, I feel like they flip it. Hey, this is the UK. We're the real fucking mudders. We're going to give you some new obstacles. We're going to make it hard as fuck.
I feel like they want to make this tough guy. That's what I feel like they
It
want
will
to
be
make.
800 feet of elevation, right per lap. Which again, I'm all for. Like, let's see it. So that's what I think we might get. So, what did shout out Mike Stefano? Mike Stefano said, "Hey, you didn't come here for an easy year, right? Like, if you get an easy year, great, easy year. But like, that's not what you came for. You came because."
Nope.
You want to do this thing that's so far out of your comfort zone. You've never stayed up all night and run a race. You've never worn a wetsuit in a race. Like all these things that you've never done, you're going to do. And so, yeah, let's hope that they kind of do that and put the tough back in Tough Mudder. We know that's what Giles really wants, right? Even though Giles has moved up on the chain, so he's not as directly involved. But I think that's what he likes to see. What do you think, Will, about that theory?
Absolutely. I think it's, because it's the first time in the UK, we want you guys to go, oh my God, that was ridiculous. Because it's about getting you guys back here at some other time. I personally hope that it will be UK, US. I really hope it's going to be that.
That would be great.
And Matt, who is Matt Brooks, he's going to be one of the RDs, and I know how evil that he can be, and that because of the weather, because of kind of coming over to you guys haven't had this where I love to travel, and the kind of that for me, the 2 weeks of World's Toughest Mudder when I came over to the US is such it's the whole thing. It's coming over, it's going out to buy the stuff, it's going to Walmart, it's going to try and find the right nutrition, and I think you guys are going to experience this and kind of realize how challenging that part is, getting used to it, and kind of getting there and going, oh crap, what's this, and that doesn't look like what I want to buy. But I really, really think that they're going to go, okay, we will show you how muddy it's going to be. We will show you how sucky and cold. We don't know how wet it's going to be because we don't know what the weather is going to be like. But they will be putting you through the mud, the water, that swamp stump. And actually, guys, what you will find at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, there's hounds at Beaver Castle. So you'll be running by the lake, and all of a sudden you'll hear dozens, if not, dozens and dozens of hounds just barking away, and you're thinking, oh my God, are they going to come and find me? Are they chasing after me? And all these things. I think a couple of years ago, and I'll come back to you, they had a bull released in one of the fields, so they had to change the course to try and get the bull back in the field before kind of putting the course back. So there's lots of other things that I think you guys will never have seen, but the hounds at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, pitch black, and you can hear them, but you don't know where they are. That is scary as shit.
Oh yeah, chupacabra running through. Matt, let me say it. When a British person says hounds, it takes on a whole different context. You're like, oh my God, this is like amazing. We're going to have islands, dogs, whatever. But,
Right.
it just sounds better.
Right. Well, and speaking of Tough, those who've been around may remember Tough Mudder was, wait for it, inspired by British Special Forces. So
Yes.
maybe we're really getting back to the to the roots of the old days. And I want to say, nice, and I do want to say about this. The shopping, the getting there, and staying for the brunch after, like what you said, it's the whole week. But yes, something as simple as I was in Glasgow. Glasgow is a popular city, okay?
Big city, yeah.
Right? But I did not pack well enough, and I needed boxers and socks. Now, if you're in America, any Walmart, any Target, anywhere in the world, in America, boxers and socks like that. I did not know where to get those things. And I asked around, and people couldn't tell me where to get those things, right? They're like, socks? It's like, well, there's a grocery store. They might have them there. You know what I mean? And Glasgow's a big city. I was on foot or by Uber. So something as simple as that changes your whole fucking day, right?
People have been populating England for thousands of years, and they haven't figured out what we figured out in a couple hundred. You need to have the crap available easily. Come on, Will. We got to get this stuff easily. Well, luckily you gave us a list, so it's going to make it a little easier.
Or when I went to Macclesfield and my stomach didn't feel great, right? And I was like, I pulled into the gas station. What's the popular gas station? Tesco?
Shell? Esso?
Anyway, I needed something for my stomach, and I was like, hey, I need some Tums. And they're like, what's Tums? And they hand me this bottle. I think it's called Gaviscon. Is that what you call your stomach? Right?
Yeah.
And it was like in a weird, like a glass jar, not plastic. It was fucking glass, like you drink like an old Coke bottle. So like the simple little things. Yes, I get it. Like traveling.
Yep.
And Americans were just so spoiled. We have everything at our fingertips, and we hardly ever leave America.
Life would be a hell of a lot easier if we all lived the Trevor Psycho style of show up with like a bottle of stuff you drink, maybe some pizza and some food you got at a gas station, some peaches, and an ironing board to put your stuff on. And life would be easy, right? But we're not all that organized or have his abilities. So we got to make things complicated. Over planning.
All right, so we've covered. We've still not covered a lot. Again, we got to remember this is for the newer people, and we've had a lot of fun. But what are some of the basics? Will, you sent me a note and said, Matt, here's a bunch of stuff. Please remember. And I said, I will not remember. So you need to make your own good notes. So what are the basics that we want to go over? I know Jason will want to talk about thermoregulation, but what besides that?
Well, I mean that stuff's kind of we beat that horse many times. We'll review it a little bit. But I do have points.
People who have never even heard of Mappy Davis or Will Chung.
I have very specific points, but maybe let me ask my points, and Will, these might be some of yours, and then we can kind of go over. So. I've got venue-specific things. You showed it on the picture. Like, how far from where we typically park to where you think the Mudder Village or our pit area? How far are we going to have to walk? What's the distance we're looking at? And you can use meters.
I was trying to do that with the parking lot, but Will didn't like my visual aids.
It's a few hundred meters, Jason. So it's not far.
Okay.
It's no more than a 5-minute walk to where your car park, unless you're very unfortunate and you're right at the back. A couple of minutes walk to Devon Village.
But that adds up if you've got multiple trips. When you say a couple minutes.
Well, when we did Atlanta at Toughest, Matt, they parked us way down in that front lot. People were trying to drag all the stuff all the way up that hill, and it was ridiculous.
That was awful. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was like the first year we did World's Toughest there. We had to. It was like, I don't know. It was probably a 10-minute walk with your gear.
Yeah.
So that part matters.
I remember Vegas was bad the first year too, wasn't it? Vegas was pretty bad. Vegas was bad most years. They started letting us drive up and drop stuff and then go back, and as long as we could do that, it's not a big deal. Let's see. This is other venue-specific stuff. What about bugs? Like, we looking at a lot of bugs like mosquitoes and different things like that, or what are things that are typical to that area?
No, you should be fine. We're not in Scotland, so there's no midges. No, you
No,
should
what?
be fine. Obviously, take some spray or something, but you're not. Yeah, it's fine. There's no worries.
What's a midget?
Like kind of like gnat, I think. It's kind of like a
Yeah,
gnat.
yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. All right, and some of these other things. So you mentioned Grantham's a small town. Anything we need to know if we're staying in Grantham about getting to the site or anything like that?
So if people are in Grantham and they need to get to the site, it's about a 10-15 minute drive. So it's not that far. If you're staying around, there's probably some other places that you guys may want to go and sightsee. The biggest cities for better shopping, definitely Nottingham. So that's 45 minutes from Grantham and kind of half an hour or so from the venue. Lincoln is relatively close for a city, and then maybe Peterborough, which is kind of straight on the highway again. They're the big cities that if you need to do some big shopping, but you should be able to get, as I say, if you click and collect and order ahead, as they're in Grantham, should be fine. And there's a Sports Direct there for some cheap kind of camping chairs and kind of if you need some sports socks or anything like that, that's probably decent. Otherwise, I would suggest other people, especially if they are staying in Nottingham, that Decathlon again is the place to go.
Okay, I got one question about the brunch spot. It sounded like it was right there by the castle, but what are we looking at as far as that? Is that right there in the area, like kind of in the same little thing, or is it off?
They haven't said that, but I assume it's going to be in the event village.
Okay.
No, they said on the grounds, which I clarified as in fact on the grounds. So I think we're going to be eating under tents. I don't think it's going to be indoors. So we have to hope it's nice weather.
Okay, well that'd be really cool because where you saw on the map Beaver Castle, it has a separate drive, so you are driving up the hill into a separate car park, and there are slightly separate grounds up towards the castle. So if it is on the grounds, as you say, Matt, that's actually much beautiful, and you'll get closer to you'll probably be able to go around the castle walls and kind of have some pictures.
So here is Decathlon that you were speaking of, right?
Yeah.
It says an hour away. Where do you think most people are staying? If here's Beaver Castle down here, right?
I think most people, I think they would be staying in Nottingham. That
Right.
would be the biggest city. So
Premier Inn,
Nottingham
that's
to
my
Grantham
favorite.
is maybe half an hour.
My favorite, Premier Inn, right? That's the place we love, right, Will?
Yeah, it is. There's also Hooters in Nottingham. One of, I think, two Hooters.
Hooters. That's almost as So there's an IKEA. There we go. There's a TJ Maxx. That's probably you can get some boxers and socks if you need it, right?
TJ Maxx, wow. There you go. Let's see. That's what I've got as far as like the off the wall things. Anything specific you think we need to know about the area of the site, any of that stuff, Will?
No, getting to the site is easy. There's lots of main roads, so you guys won't have any issues there. I've already talked about the shopping, which was one of the things that I had on the list. I guess the other thing really is about some of the obstacles and how they are different to the US. Yep. The biggest one is Block Ness. Block Ness is bigger and heavier than the US one. So again, go look on some of my videos and you'll see kind of Block Ness in the US is kind of waist deep, and you can almost move it with your pinky finger. That's how light it is to move the blocks. But in the UK, the water is about 5 foot deep, so I can do it. So it's about 5 foot deep, and the blocks are so much heavier. So especially if you're running at night and you're alone, you have to jump up and reach over and kind of as though it's a wall.
Hang on a second. Jason, when have you ever pushed Block Ness with your pinky? I've always needed multiple people to push it.
Well, I mean, to his point, in Atlanta and the toughest, if you didn't have somebody to stabilize, you better get over that thing quick, because I'm not very big. I only weigh 155 pounds, and that thing started to turn on me. In years past, you would jump on it and grab it, and if it was just one of you, it wouldn't move. You could climb over it, not any problem. If that water is chest deep, though, like I probably, not being very tall, even though I can jump pretty high, I'd still have to grab a hold of that support that helps it turn and jump and grab it just to be able to get over by myself. But that definitely makes a difference in how people need to approach it. One of the things I'm going to mention this because I'm thinking about it right now. People in Florida, I don't know if it's because they were new or they're just not used to it. And this happened in Toughest in Atlanta. They did not know how to do block nests. And I'm like, have you guys not done a Tough Mudder before? You got to help each other spin around, hold on, all this kind of stuff. So people really need to, and this happened at that pyramid scheme obstacle with the net over the top. You really need to, when you're coming up to an obstacle, you have to think about, can I do this by myself? And if I see someone 100 yards ahead, you need to sprint up and get with them. Don't try to do this on your own. It's just not worth it. And there were a couple times where I'd run past people. I'd be like, come on, hurry up, let's go. And they're like, no, go ahead. I'm like, no, I need you. You need me. Let's go. So, I think people need to really think about that when they're doing this. You might be able to do it on your own at 6 p.m., but you're going to wish you had helped or had people helping you by the time you get to 5 a.m. or 3 a.m. So, especially it sounds like block nests, you're definitely going to need that. Maybe not the but
absolutely, and I think that's probably the one big tip I have for you guys coming across. It's big, it's heavy. Yes, if you can manage to get over at 6 o'clock, you might get over at 2 o'clock in the morning. If you can't get over on your own at 5 o'clock or always need help, then of course you're always going to need help. So it is that tactical of speeding up or slowing down to join people. But I cannot impress enough that our block nest is so much heavier and the water is so much deeper. Therefore, it takes more energy to try and jump up to reach up and over, even if you can do it yourself in the US.
Especially when the hounds are released and
especially when the hounds are
So what about Mudderhorn? I read somewhere, I don't know if it's Daniel Stevens, somebody said something about Mudderhorn is slightly different. Maybe that big beginning part where, men of Mudderhorn are always there here in the States. I don't know what's going to happen in England. How is that different?
I don't think. I think it's wider, so the gradient is shallower than Mudderhorn. So I remember your guys is quite steep. It's almost like almost a vertical climb. It's not quite as bad as that in the UK. I do know that there are a few guys that are aiming to be men of Mudderhorn and guys out there and helping all night. But again, I guess that is going to be something that's very different, that you may only have one or two people or maybe not have anyone on Everest. And our Everest is different. It's your guys' old school Everest. Ours has kind of gone backwards and forwards. It used to be taller. There used to be 2 levels, so you'd have a smaller level for kind of a lot easier to get up. Maybe they bring that on this time around. Maybe they have the ropes. They have reversed it in years past at Europe's Toughest, and if you look at the rules, and I don't know whether they've done it at other toughest mudders that I've not been to, where they've reversed it and you go up the stairs and slide down, but they have reversed it before in the UK.
Never done that before.
I think actually you brought up a good point, Jason, that there probably won't be as much help around compared to being in the US when there's a lot of the guys around.
Okay, all right.
Well, I think the other thing is, I know they were very excited to talk about a lot of early signups, but I don't think we've seen a massive, it didn't double last year's. So I think in the middle of the night, Jason, as you know, there's always less and less people out there, and certainly if it gets colder. So yeah, make friends while it's nice, because as it gets later and later, you might want to stick with some folks, because it's no fun getting to an obstacle late at night. I feel like we haven't. I know you still probably have a lot more questions, Jason, but I do kind of want to cover a lot of the just, hey, I'm new and I'm nervous, and what's it like, and how do I do it? And can we cover some of that stuff, or do you have some more questions?
No, I don't have too many more questions. Is there any other obstacles that you know specifically are going to be an issue for anybody that's used to the U.S. version of stuff?
No, it really is just that one. I think that is so different, and people need to be aware and kind of gauge it in the day and see how they feel ready for later on. But it's big, it's heavy.
All right, good stuff. Okay, Matt. So we'll dive into a typical thing, and I'll just kind of. I think it might be easiest if I just kind of go through the pre-race prep and how some people need to think about that, and how they're kind of will condense down that series that we did, just so it's kind of like a run through. So
right. And by the way, if you want to look up, I forgot what I called it. What did I call it? how to prepare for World's Toughest Mudder? Because it's really good, and there's
Yeah, it was
it's
a prep
still-
series. I can't remember exactly what we did call it. It was, I used to call it the Cliff Notes podcast series, but I don't know what you called it. You called it something else.
I'm typing in World's Toughest Mudder prep, and let's see what comes up on Google. How to train for World's Toughest Mudder, according to Ryan Atkins from August 2018.
Bit late for that.
Oh,
now.
dude, it comes right up under videos, at least under mine, and
Okay.
it says what to wear, Pit Crew FAQ, an interview with Melissa Linden. So yeah, I got a lot of stuff on there. So go to World's Toughest, go to YouTube, go to Obstacle Racing Media YouTube and just search general World's Toughest Mudder prep. We got a lot of good stuff. But go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to impress upon anybody that's new to this and they haven't done this before. Having a plan and knowing that plan is going to go to hell, but still having a plan is going to be key. And you're not going to think about it logically as you go through the actual race, and stuff's going to get changed here and there. But if you've got a pit crew, which I hope you do, if you're doing this for the first time, if you got a pit crew that you go through, especially listen to that pit crew podcast we did, but have a plan written out for them, even if it's just a general one. If you've never done one before, even if you've done like one and it's here in the States and it was warm, you just didn't have a whole lot of gear changes, know that I believe, and it seems like it's kind of early, but they've got listed as night ops starts at 7, but then I have that sunset's not till like 9:30. What time is it actually going to get dark?
It's going to be around 9:30, yeah.
Okay.
And then I think the light is, as we speak right now, so we're only a few weeks away, I think it starts getting light about 4 o'clock.
Yeah, because it said night ops ends at 5. So we're in for a heck of a lot longer daytime than we're used to at Worlds. So that darkness time, which is the time when everybody gets real down on themselves, we got a lot less time like that. But
what do you think
knowing
about
how to plan and
what do you think about this map? This is, I'm not sure how current this is, but what do you think?
Wow,
Is
that's
this,
old school.
what do you think about this map?
we're looking at Vegas there. What are you talking about? What the heck? That's fantastic. See the 817 feet of gain.
Look how beautiful that is, man.
Man, it is fantastic.
Remember Cellucor?
One of the guy, I think it was Wade, went out there to run, and went. It was definitely Wade. Wade Shonoweiss went out there. He was out there for a conference. He decided to go over to Lake Las Vegas and run. It's all subdivisions now. He said it was very, very disappointing because he remembers it being this badass site for racing, and it's all subdivisions now, like condos and hotels and stuff. Anyway, so as you show up to the venue and you kind of get a layout of the land and all this stuff, you set your pit up, which, by the way, we selected pits yesterday for the contenders, so the fun has begun. But make sure that you set all this plan up with your pit crew, and the night before you guys are reviewing it. What are we going to do during the race? We're starting out. What am I going to eat during the daytime hours? What are my clothes changing ideas? What am I going to do there? So you got all this stuff planned out kind of ahead of time, because if you just run into the pit and you're like, oh, I need this, oh, I need that, well, your pit crew is it's going to take them a while. And depending on the course layout, you might be able to have them come meet you out on course. But having a plan for all of that and being able to put that together ahead of time is going to be key, because this is probably not like anything you've ever done before, even if you've done, loop races and different things like that. Knowing kind of ahead of time what you're looking to do is going to be a big key. Thermal regulation, my general thing is, some people want to be warm. And this is, Matt, this is why you say this. You don't want to be warm. You never want to be warm. You want to be comfortably cold, meaning you're not absolutely freezing your ass off, but at the same time, you're not really that comfortable, because if you get to that point, the body's trying to get rid of heat at that point, because it doesn't like too much heat. And then you're in this weird zone where the body's trying to get rid of heat. Oh, crap, it's cold. And then all of a sudden that shift is really drastic, whereas you want like a gradual shift in comfortability. Okay, I'm pretty comfortable during the day. I'm a little less comfortable, a little less comfortable. And as you get colder, you put on more gear. and maybe you start by putting a jacket on, and then you put a wetsuit shirt on and then put the jacket back on. You put a Neptune on over the top of the wetsuit shirt and then put the jacket back on. And then, okay, now here we are, 10 p.m. I'll put my full wetsuit on. If you're moving slower, maybe you go into a full wetsuit. But know that if he's telling me that there's a big wind issue, especially overnight, that a jacket is probably your most important thing other than having some neoprene. So making sure that that's with you. But having a hood or something to put over your head, that's definitely going to help keep you warm. But think of a progressive nature of how I'm going to progressively dress warmer and warmer versus I need to get in my warm clothes so I don't get cold. I think you need to be a little bit uncomfortable, because if you don't want to get too cold, but if you get too comfortable, there's this point in which you're shifting back and forth, and that's
I have to argue with you a little bit, though, because I don't think most people are moving. I think it's two different ones. For people who are moving really fast, then they've got all these options. For most people, what we always said going back to 2016 was, don't get 3 different wetsuits, get the 3-2, and then just layer up and add more and more and more as you get colder.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But I'm saying they don't have time to fuck around. Like, when the sun goes down, put your wetsuit on. That's kind of what we say. And then if you still need layers on top of that, but I don't think for most people moving the pace they're moving, there's not an in between.
There may be. I mean, what I mean is the in between meaning put the jacket on. But a regular jacket. Put your regular jacket on the second you think you're starting to get cold. Don't just jump all the way into the wetsuit, because you might get too hot then. Now, if the person is really cold and they're moving really slow, but I saw people in full wetsuits in Tampa last year. I don't even know how that's possible. Like, with the sun still shining, I have overheated before. It was terrible. But just know that you have to plan a progressive nature of, I don't want to be overly warm, but at the same time, if you're moving slow enough that there is no time frame, it gets dark and now it's cold, you're going to need to move into the full wetsuit. But if you have a plan, like I might need a jacket ahead of time, I might need a wetsuit shirt or something like that. Obviously, you got to bring what you can bring.
Actually,
but
Will, you might be a good example. Will, how many miles did you get last year, Will?
I did 50 last year. I had a bit of time, but I kind of stopped at 50. So I wore a shorty. I'm always the one that gets cold quicker. So I wore a shorty through the evening. And I think, talking about Midlands, it's definitely going to be 3-2 and almost definitely going to be a windproof breaker for most people. But I don't think it's going to get any colder than that. And I think if it did, I think most people will probably pit for a while.
Don't do that.
Apart from the hill,
keep going.
Apart from the hills,
you're going to regret it.
As I mentioned, is good running. So they don't have to worry about where their feet are going. They can just run or hike very quickly to keep warm. So 3-2 and a windbreaker should be enough for most people.
And a little cap.
And a cap.
Yeah, because the neoprene cap for the water obstacles,
buff,
right?
Yes.
Right? No, but did you wear neoprene last year or no at night?
Only the shorty, but not
But
a
on
cap.
the colder years, you've worn the neoprene cap and the 3-2.
Yeah.
I mean, that windbreaker you can put on. That's the one thing you can put on, like, almost right away if you get a little chilly. And then, like you said, you can add layers to it.
And you can open it up. That's the real key. I think people need to understand that if you're running with a traditional wetsuit where it zips in the back, then it's not as easy to do. But if you've got a front zip something, use that. A vest. Scott Wierzicki, my running partner, he always has vests. So there's 2 mil vests he wears, and he zips those up so he can unzip it if he gets hot. Just try to think about things in that regard. But yeah, you don't show up to this race thinking, do I need a wetsuit? That's always the freaking question. And it's
always a wetsuit. I really would suggest long sleeves and maybe some kind of long running. What do you call them? Leggings as well. The crawling here is just quite gritty, so it's going to start doing the little scratches.
I forgot to ask about rocks.
Whilst you've been talking, Jason, and just to go back on the course, I've got a typical Midlands course in front of me, over 13k, but of course it's going to be shorter for the 5 miles. But I think they're going to put you up the same hills. They're just going to reduce kind of the bits of running in between. It came up with 261 meters of total elevation, which is around about 850 foot.
Per lap?
Yeah,
That's as much
honestly,
as Vegas at its highest years.
I think that's going to be quite typical of what you're going to see.
So
So
the highest-
between 6.
The highest we've ever had in Vegas, which is, I remember, a lot of fucking hills. You think we're going to have that this year?
I think between 600 and 800 feet of elevation you're gonna see.
Wow.
That's good. You better be ready to run hills.
Walk.
I think, and
Walk
also
with
going back,
purpose.
Jason, I think the plan A, yes, plan B, plan C, and keep going. Talking to Charlie Burrow, who is also World's Toughest Mudder contender, and I think he's got elite, I think, this year as well. He managed to get in, sneak in at Europe's Toughest Infinity. He talks about having several plans through the day and through the night. So just your little goals, keep going for that one, and then see what happens at night, and see how you get to in kind of daybreak and things like that. But definitely plan A, B, C, D. Is definitely where you need to go, and everyone's going to be fixated on numbers. They always have. My first World's Toughest, I want to get 50. I want to get 50. I got nowhere near 50. I wasn't very well, but it's kind of knowing that 24 hours is such a long time. And anything can happen, whether it's the weather, whether it's a particular obstacle, whether it's stomach issues, and kind of something has just not gone down well whilst you've been eating, even though you practice your nutrition, even though you've been training for the past 6-9 months. 24 hours is a long time.
I got a couple. Well, Matt's going to say what all of us should just be planning. Keep moving. That's the key. If you need to take a short nap, take a short nap. Otherwise, keep moving.
Do not take a short nap. I don't know what Jason is talking about. The point of the race is to keep moving. Do not take a short nap.
Well, because if you're, he mentioned nausea. I have on numerous occasions gotten really nauseous, and the only thing that will curb that nausea is about a 20-minute nap. So because it allows the body to kind of settle down. Some people can't sleep that well, so that may not be an option for them. But the longer you spend in the pit, the more comfortable you get, and that's like the opposite of what you want to do. And what he mentioned, I'm going to mention a gear thing that we learned when I did the 340-mile canoe race last year, something called Leuco tape. No idea about this. I don't know how I raced for 15 years in OCR and did not know about Leuco tape. Look it up on Amazon. Get some. It is basically sports tape with duct tape type of glue. It will not come off. And if you have blister issues, wrap your feet in it. Put it in there. It's stretchy. It's fantastic. We put it on our hands during that canoe race, and it didn't come off. So that is a option that everybody needs to have in their kit is Leuco tape.
I can just say this. I've DNF'd many ultras. I've DNF'd World's Toughest, and I've also finished races and finished World's Toughest. And the difference is I kept moving. So don't stop moving. That's all I can tell you. Don't stop moving.
And I think
You're cold. You're miserable.
Don't go to the hotel. Is that what you mean?
Definitely don't go to the hotel. It's another level. But even just in the pits.
Burn the boats.
Exactly. Keep moving. You'll be so glad you did. You can always do one more lap, as we say, right? Like, it's just one more lap. Get out there and do one more lap. Have a pit crew that will encourage you to do one more lap. Have a pit crew that will push you off your comfy fucking chair. If I see you, listen, Sean Rumbuck can tell you, he was sitting by the fire, and I was like, what are you doing sitting by the fire? Get out there, dude. So,
That's hilarious.
Keep moving.
What's really funny is Ruth Battersea. She's now a female elite contender. She got elite contender at Europe's Toughest Infinity. She went to World's Toughest Mudder with me last year in Florida. She told our pit crew that she was not allowed a cup of tea until after 50 miles, and that just kept it going to the 50 miles. Like, right, cup of tea, great, and now I think just talk about keeping moving, Matt. If the route is the kind of the route is going to be the same as normal years, the first half mile is quite flat, so you can actually quick pit eat whilst you're hiking quickly or walking before you get to the obstacle, and then it would normally go straight uphill to somewhere. So there is quite about half a mile that's flat, so you can just eat and move at the same time, and that's really important if you do want to keep moving.
Can we? And
Yeah,
let's.
that's
let's,
good.
let's-
That's a
let's-
really good point. To go along with that, Matt, what you said there, the guy who assassinated bin Laden, Navy SEAL, said one of the things that he was told during BUD/S is, don't quit today, quit tomorrow.
Right.
So what I would tell people, fantastic piece of advice, don't quit this lap, quit the next lap.
Exactly.
And when they get in on that one, pit crew, they're not quitting on that lap. They're going to do one more. If they make it through 2 laps, they will not quit.
So listen,
But they
we
gotta
do that.
get through 2 more.
My 12-step friends know that. We say, listen, you can drink tomorrow, just don't drink today. And I've been doing that for 25 plus years. So there you go.
That's right.
I-
Don't quit now.
I'm not going to drink
If
today.
you
I
quit
might
now,
drink
you're
tomorrow.
making an emotional decision. If you quit in 1 lap, you've had some time to cool off. Okay, maybe. You really want to quit right now? Maybe 1 more. Let's do 1 more, and then you can
Listen,
quit.
I'm going to say that to you every single time until the race is over. But I will say something we didn't kind of cover. We're talking about what to bring. You can definitely bring as much as you want. We talked about the clothing thing. Bring way too much, especially if it's your first year. Bring way too much food. It's fine. In further years, you'll get better at being more economical. Bring everything you like to fucking eat. Don't let anybody tell you you don't need it all. Bring it all so that you might be in the mood for chocolate 1 lap. You might be in the mood for soup for 1 lap. I love that idea of you can come up with your own version of telling your pit crew, I can't have X until I hit 50 or 60, or like it could be, I don't know what it could be for you, but I think that's great pizza. Whatever it is, I don't get to have X until I do this. I think is a great motivator.
Well, the funny thing is, this always happens. I bring a lot of food because I typically have gut problems. I bring a lot of different food, and it's usually the person next to me who has something that I don't have. I'm like, you know what? Those chocolate donuts look really good right now. Can I have one of those? Yeah, here you go. And I'm like, why didn't I think about that? Well, sometimes it's like the dog thing. The dog's got a bone, but the dog next to him's got this other thing. He's like, yeah, I want that one. So just know that bring all your stuff, bring all the food you can think of, and maybe you're going to want this, maybe you're going to want that. Unfortunately, I always end up throwing a lot of food out because I always bring way more than I possibly could eat. And I'm like, oh, man, I forgot I had that. Especially if you don't have a pit crew. Then you're like sitting there, you get into the pit, you're like a mile out. You're like, you know what's going to be great? I'm going to eat this, I'm going to eat this, and I'm going to eat this. And you get in the pit and you're like, wait, what? I don't even remember what I was looking for.
I believe that TMHQ this year, as they do every year at World's Toughest Mudder, will have a collection of the camping gear that people don't want. Maybe they're leaving the water and the food. They're going to give it to the local food bank, the local homeless shelter. So there's definitely, buy too much and then you can just donate it to the local food bank. That's exactly what we did. Because again, when you're traveling, you're buying a canopy or you're buying the chairs, but you can't take them back on the plane to go home. So it's like, great, let's just give it to charity and off it goes to the homeless shelter. So we're going to do exactly the same this year. So yeah, go buy too much.
All right. Definitely sounds good. Matt, what else did we not cover?
What about, have you talked about pit crew and maybe the timing mats?
What do you mean? Like
What about timing mats?
what about
So of course there's 3 or 4, probably 5 timing mats through the course. So your pit crew can follow you as you're going around the course, so they can start to prepare. Once you get past mile 4, they can start to prepare for your incoming and kind of have everything ready for you.
Watching the big board there, and sometimes it's wrong, and sometimes there's a really good spot on the course to find them at mile 3 or 4 that you can then run back and forth. People have gone so far as to have radios and stuff. I don't think you need to go that far. But
yeah, usually if you get that brings a question. Do you get is there cell phone service there for people who have cell phones that are going to work?
Yes. Not brilliant, but you can get cell phone service.
Okay, because a lot of times people will text back and forth between 2 pit crew people. What I would say for pit crew is to understand when we get there and you set up your pit, understand the layout of the course and where you might be up. Because my pit crew last year, she was able to run to the end of our line, see me at Mutterhorn, ask me what I wanted as I'm climbing over Mutterhorn, which takes 4 minutes, or by the time I would go over Mutterhorn, get to the end, and then cross through the pit. it was like 3 or 4 minutes. She had time to run back, grab something, and then get to me on the line there. So setting out that layout and figuring out how you're going to do that, and whether or not you got multiple pit crew, you can then text back to the middle of the pit, all that type of stuff. But that is definitely that's part of your pit crew plan. Is okay, I'm going to figure out this, that, and the other.
Depending on where they can go on the course, because of course last year they were quite limited, weren't they? There's probably 2 spots where they would hit you at maybe kind of 2.5 miles, and then possibly about 3.5 miles. They would be the ideal parts if you're allowed out on the normal spectator route. So there are spots on a normal spectator route that they would let you do it. Again, World's Toughest Mudder might be slightly different.
even if like last year it was Mudderhorn and then EST, right? And I know as things go on, people are going to use carabiners or whatever we call them, wristbands. But even that, like, it takes a couple minutes to go over Mudderhorn. So you could see your person come to Mudderhorn. What are you in the mood for? PB&J. Great. I'll see you over there. Boop, speed back to the tent, meet him in the thing, and you're gonna figure that all out as the night goes on. You also may get a general idea the night before. Do we know if there will be a hot lap night before walk the course situation?
I don't know yet.
It said something about, it did not say hot lap. It said something about, I think I looked in the course, maybe it was I can't remember where I saw it. It might have been in the rule book, because I reviewed the rule book last night. Something about becoming familiar with the course. So I don't know if they're going to allow people to like walk out on the course, or if they've actually got a hot lap. I did not read anything about a hot lap.
Did they sell it? Because last year the last 2 years they've sold it, right, as a thing.
Last year it was actually open to anybody. It wasn't even just pit crew. It was like people could actually buy a lap.
But you could buy it, so that's not on there now.
I do not know about that.
Go look.
I don't think you can buy it, but I'm assuming you would do the same as what we've done other years, that you can walk the course. Didn't they usually have the rules, and that would take half an hour or so, and then you've got 2 hours.
But you used to not be
before
able to.
we close the pit.
This hot lap thing is new. I feel like the first few years you weren't allowed to walk the course. People would kind of peek around, but you weren't really allowed to walk around, were you? Like in Vegas, you couldn't.
I did that.
It wasn't exactly.
Yeah,
they had. I mean, there was hot lap. There was definitely hot laps. It was like mainly for pit crew, I think, in Laughlin, but anybody could do it. They've done it since Laughlin, I think, is the hot lap has been what we've always kind of walked the course to kind of see certain things and see layout and overall stuff. For stuff that's easy, some people want to walk the whole thing. I would say it's too much. They may have actually started the hot lap in Atlanta.
I feel like it's definitely new.
But yeah, it's not that's not an ongoing thing, but. Become somewhat familiar with the course and the kind of layout and that type of thing. That way, you have an idea. Your pit crew has an idea of what they're up against, what you're up against, so that they can know what to bring you when you need it and all that stuff.
I just opened up the rules, and I do want to cover this because it is something that you can be DQ'd for, which is getting help from your pit on the course. So you can talk to them, but you can't pace them. You can't. You can't give them food, so you only can give them things inside the pit. Everything else is not allowed. But you can talk to them, but you can't pace them, and you can't give them stuff.
That brings me to a question, Will. Penalties. What are typical penalties in the UK?
So at Europe's Toughest earlier this year, all the penalties were in the pits. And so you'd have to do things like bear crawls or kind of clean press squats and things like that. I assume it will be back to World's Toughest Mudder rules. Will be very similar to what we had last year. Things like walk the plank or kind of dizzy bat. That's where you kind of put your head on the pole and you run around, or there's a bit of a running loop. So I assume that it's going to be very similar to the normal World's Toughest Mudder kind of penalties.
Not the weird thing we had last year where it was 1 to 8 or whatever that was. Was that last year?
1 to 8.
Did we do that?
No, I think that was in Atmore. I think they did that in Atmore. That was back in the day.
Oh, no, we did that in Alula, actually. I'm sorry. Remember that in Alula, Will, where it was like...
Yeah, so that's what they do here in the UK for the normal toughest and the infinities. But I think World's Toughest Mudder will be the penalties at at the obstacle, not back
Not
in the
at
pit.
the race center, because remember we did it. It was at the race center for a couple years, and now they've gone back to at the race.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that I keep thinking about and forget to say, but you get your bib the night before or the day before when you show up, and you have a chance to write your name on the back. And we always say, hey, do that, because people will pass you in the middle of the night, and it may give you the cheering you might need. If I pass you in the middle of the night and there's nothing on your shirt, I might just say, hey, buddy. But if you have your name or a fun nickname on the back, I can be like, hey, how's it going, Lizard Lips, or whatever the hell you put on the back of your. How's it going? Like, you want to put something really funny? That'll
Not
really
Steve,
that'll
or whatever it is that's funny that you put on there.
right.
You,
that'll get-
you know what I do, Matt?
What's that?
I bring an iron-on reflective print. So instead of writing on it, it's reflective print. So of course, when people are running by you, their headlamp will shine on your name, and that's how they say, "Hey, Will. Hey, buddy."
But not
hey,
everybody's
whatever.
not everybody's as fancy as you. So a marker
Well,
is fine. And it definitely. And by the way, this is my number one. Matt, if you take away no other tips from this podcast or this YouTube station, Matt B. Davis's number one tip is, if you are feeling tired, you reach out to somebody else, and that will take you out of yourself. So you're really tired, you're a zombie, you're walking by, you're like, fuck, I'm fucking tired. You talk to someone, go, hey, someone, how are you doing? And that pulls you both right into it. I'm telling you, it's the best way is for you to lead that charge, you to go first, and just be honest. Like, it's out of your comfort zone. You're in your head. You're fucking tired. Say to the volunteer, like, when the volunteer's like, hey, what's up? Don't just say fine. Be like, I'm really fucking tired right now. Could I get a hug? Like, just do it, man. And it'll get you right out of it.
It takes a tribe, right? We're all out there together. You guys are talking about writing stuff on the back. I was talking to, so Matt and Tracy Sullivan are coming from Missouri here. They're going to do it together. Matt is 18. This is his senior trip, and he's going to do this race.
Let's go.
And I told him, I was like, you got to put senior trip on your back. And the reason is because people are going to come by and they're like, senior trip? How old are you? 18? What? This is a terrible idea. I can't believe you're out here, but it's fantastic. But that is enough to stimulate you to like, man, I got to keep going. This is awesome. And you get that enough times, and you're like, nobody knows me, but this is great. They'll say hi to me, whatever. But everybody's out there together. I try to, all the new people, understand, you are not alone. This is you versus the course, but everybody's out there together. So, if you see somebody who's struggling, like Matt said, if you're pushing to get the mileage you want, fine. But otherwise, maybe you stop and you take 3 minutes to talk to this chap who's next to you, who came down from Scotland, never done it before, and you're just learning a little bit about him. It's just a person you talk to a little bit on the course, but this happens repeatedly overnight. You'll always run into the same people because you're typically moving the same speed or similar speed. You'd be like, hey, it's so-and-so. I ran into a guy, I can't remember his name now. All I remember is he's an Air Force guy. And he had something funny on the back of his on the back of his shirt, on the back of his bib. I talked to him for a second. I'm like, what's up with this? And he's like, oh, that's my call sign. I'm like, call sign? And he's like, I'm Air Force and all this kind of stuff. But I remember that. I mean, why do I remember that? I don't know. But it's just something that keeps him going, keeps you going. So don't be afraid to reach out and like talk to people out on course.
Yeah, if you put John on the back of your shirt, I might not remember you, but if you put Blood Fart, I will remember you. Right?
That is definitely true, and I hope that's not an accurate depiction of your current state.
I hope not either, but that's the name that just popped on up to me. So I feel like we could go in a lot of other directions, and we've been on for almost an hour and a half. So I'd like to kind of wrap it up with I don't know, final words or thoughts, Will Chung, for new people doing World's Toughest Mudder.
So Matt, before we go through it, because Jason asked me about obstacles, and I said, that's it. I cannot believe I forgot about Arctic Enema. Arctic Enema for the US guys is going to be so much different. So you guys, it's just a pit of ice. Great. You kind of step in it under the plank and step out. The UK version is a tube slide. So you're climbing.
We used to have it that way.
Yeah, it's 2.0,
Oh, okay.
right?
There we go. So you guys got to, especially I guess more recent mudders then may have never seen that before. So you're climbing up, you slide into a tube, and then that slides you straight into the water and the ice, under the tires, and then out again. But it takes your breath away, as you know. It just, once you're in that ice cold water, whatever time of day or night it is, it just takes your breath away, and it is kind of, you've got to not panic. And the water safety guys are brilliant on that obstacle too, because they've seen it all before. They know exactly what they need to do and how to talk you through it. But it's about knowing that it's going to take your breath away, and then kind of taking a breath and then getting back under there. But it is the slide, and so you have absolutely no control apart from letting go before you get into that water and the ice.
All right, that sounds fantastic to me. Let's see. Final thoughts. I guess my thought is always going back to new people or people who haven't done this a whole lot of times. Wrap your mind around the fact that this is going to suck. This might suck as bad as anything you've ever experienced in your life. One of the reasons is because if you're climbing a mountain, you can see the summit. If you're running an ultra race, you're 30 miles from the finish, and you got to get to the finish. Otherwise, you got to stop at an aid station, and somebody has to pick you up. When you run a loop race, you are back to comfort every time you hit the pit. You're back to your loving loved ones that are in the pit. You're back to warmth. You're back to a hot cup of tea. You're back to whatever. The only thing that's going to keep you going is to understand, I'm not there yet. I got to keep moving. I got to keep moving. I got to keep moving. And just understand that if you keep going, if you're 2 laps more than you thought you could do by the time you finish, the amount of appreciation you will have for your experience is learned in those last 2 laps, not before. So Sean Corbell always says, you don't finish at the finish line, you finish somewhere out there and you make it to the finish line. Well, in a loop course, that may mean that you have to cross the finish line 2 more times before you're actually finished. But don't sell yourself short. You can always do a little bit more.
For my final thoughts, I think it's about enjoying the experience. Yes, it's going to suck. Yes, it's going to get cold. Yes, you'll be shit scared of those hounds barking at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. But you know that the best part of World's Toughest Mudder for me, or even Toughest Mudder with the overnight version, is when the sun starts to come out and the sun starts to rise and starts to shine. And I promise you, if you can get to that point and you're on course when the sun rises, that is the most electric part of that 24 hours that you will ever see. So if you stay out there for as long as, at least till that point, you will absolutely enjoy and love that experience.
Hopefully we get a little bagpipe action at that point.
All right, listen, we may do this again. I may hop on with one or both of you when the map comes out or something new happens. We might record again. But I'm also saying now to remind myself later, I am going to put the links of the previous shows and previous articles with years and years of experience from this thing. So thanks for joining me, Will and Jason, and we'll see you all at Belvoir Castle. And there you have it. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We will have lots of World's Toughest Mudder content coming from the event. So as I said, if you're not already following us on Instagram, go do that, Obstacle Racing Media. And then we'll have some fun stuff from the event as well. Love you, miss you, mean it. I've got to run.